Hello and welcome to today's web seminar, Integrated eMarketing and Webinars for Insurance Lead Gen and Improved Client Retention. This web seminar is brought to you by StartUpSelling and has two speakers today. Alan Bloom, the founder and CEO of StartUpSelling, also the author of Your Virtual Success and Sell More and Work Less. He was twice named to the Inc. 500 list. He's written over 150 insurance marketing articles and is widely considered to be an insurance marketing expert. My name is John Scranton. I'll be your moderator and one of your speakers today. I also work with StartUpSelling, helping our clients with marketing and lead generation. But before this, I was a licensed insurance agent, like many of you, with the Top 100 agency. I co-authored Sell More and Work Less. I've written over 1,000 insurance marketing blogs, and I'm an insurance marketing and lead gen pro. So a quick review of today's topics. First, we're going to talk about how to create the email list that will support your email marketing or webinar series. We'll talk about email marketing best practices and compliance, how to select your web seminar topics and speakers, how to prepare for, present, and execute a great webinar, and follow-up and lead gen best practices to help you capitalize on the opportunity created by your webinar series. So let's dive in here to a few sample webinar initiatives. This is to show you what's possible. What could you accomplish should you follow the email marketing and web seminar best practices that we'll be talking about today. Example one, an East Coast benefits agency that targets a larger profile. They present on a monthly basis educational compliance-related topics like the Affordable Care Act or IRS provisions. They typically attract 200 to 300 registrants per web seminar. Around 60% of those attend. That's over 100 new opportunities every month created by their web seminar series. Similarly, a Midwest trucking agency, they alternate between safety-related and compliance-related topics. More narrow or technical topics may attract 50, 60 registrants. FMCSA-type topics attract as many as 150 or 200 registrants for each web seminar. And the last example, a Mid-Atlantic wholesale broker, a little bit different as they typically invite agents to their web seminars, but the same concepts applied. They educate agents on unique niche programs that aren't common knowledge to the agency population and attract anywhere from 100 to 300 registrants per webinar. So hopefully this gives you a glimpse of what you can accomplish when you marry email marketing and web seminars leveraging key best practices. So the first area that we'll discuss, email list generation. This is, in theory, simple. In practice, a little bit more challenging. And hopefully it's something that most of you are already working on, already have some best practices in place to accomplish. It begins with your clients. You want to make sure that agents, when they're in the field, are asking all clients for emails, and that you have service people as part of their workflow asking for emails. Whenever you have a record that's incomplete, emails missing, if they have a service request, a cert, an invoice, a renewal, they should be asking for that email address, because a great way to improve the number of times you touch a client during the year and hopefully improve your retention is to drip on them with educational information, hopefully with a webinar call to action on a regular basis. Include your former clients as well. Just because somebody left doesn't mean they won't be impressed or won't be happy to hear your name when you send them a webinar invitation that asks them if they'd like to learn how to comply with 2017 OSHA requirements. Same idea for active prospects. Hopefully all the producers on the line today are already doing this, getting emails and cell phone numbers every time they talk to a prospect. If you're quoting somebody, or if you're trying to close a quote on somebody and they receive an impressive educational email from you, it will help your cause. Also, dormant prospects. Somebody who's 6, 9 months out from a renewal may not get any attention from a typical broker, but is seeing regular educational emails from you that are interesting and show value, even though they're not your client. It helps your cause when you reach out to them, 90 days before the renewal or whenever it's a fit. Also, take advantage of partners, colleagues, LinkedIn contacts, people in your network that will be impressed by what you have to say. Remember, these messages, that we're going to be sending are always going to be helping people improve or build their businesses. So people will be happy to receive them. They may forward them to in-profile prospects, recommend you to somebody, or get somebody thinking about a possible referral. Last but not least, list procurement. Let's say that over time, your producers and service people build a list of 2,000 clients, active and former, and prospects, active and dormant, and you say, we're attracting all these people to our newsletter or our webinars, but what if we had 10,000 emails instead of 2,000? Well, you can procure a list, and you can procure a list of people in your target profile, but it's very challenging and can be even a little bit dangerous, so you want to make sure you seek professional guidance when doing this. A story we often like to share is a client who came to us and said, I bought a list of 30,000 emails. I keep sending them emails, and all I'm generating is spam complaints and people coming to my website and complaining and replying, take me off your list, and I'm not getting any activity. Well, the problem was he had bought a list that was primarily personal emails, not business emails. They weren't in his target profile, so the message he was sending was falling on deaf ears. It wasn't appropriate for the audience. So if you want to build your list through list procurement, make sure that you use a competent marketing agency or partner who can assist you with that, and make sure it's done properly. Now, as you build this library of emails, it's very easy to dump them all into one giant pool, but that can cause some challenges. You want to make sure that as you add these people to your email marketing engine, or even Excel files where you're keeping and building lists, do them in different lists, separate lists. Clients shouldn't be mixed in with people from a purchase list. They may have different needs. You may want to give them different attention. Upload these people to your email marketing engine in each of the different buckets, almost as listed on this slide, so that the content of the message will allow you to select who it should go to, because it may not be appropriate for all the people in your system. So with that, now Alan's going to talk about email marketing best practices. Now that we have a list, how are we going to reach out to these people?
So thank you, John. When it comes to email marketing, it is an art and a science, but it is heavy on the science. So it's very much metric driven. You execute, you refine, you execute, you measure, you refine, you execute again, you measure, and you refine. So we want to take great relevant content, and webinars offer one of the best content fulfillment programs that an insurance agent can have. It is terrific. If done well, it will elevate your game. It'll show you as a thought leader. It will be having you speak to your clients and prospects as an advisor, as opposed to somebody selling insurance. So we want to take that high quality content with subject matter experts as speakers, and we want to format that email with the best probability of it rendering professionally when it gets there. We'll talk to you about that in a second. So you don't want to look at a WYSIWYG perspective. You want to look at what's going to arrive after I send it. We recommend that you reach out to your clients and prospects twice a month with this content. It's a very good frequency, and that would be 2 webinar invitations per month. We think more than that can be spammy, and even clients can opt out, and doing it once every 2 months is much too infrequent. So we recommend to our clients and for ourselves 2 email campaigns about your webinar, invitation-centric, professional, non-salesy oriented emails, and you send those out and have people register in a professional way, like using, for example, GoToWebinar or Adobe Acrobat, or Adobe, excuse me. So the best time of days, we found Tuesdays and Fridays are the best. We've measured this frequently. Usually in the morning is the best time. It can vary regionally. It can vary based upon your subject matter, but that's a great takeaway for you today. Tuesday and Friday mornings are the best times empirically to send emails. And you want to make sure that you maintain canned spam compliance. Don't confuse opt-out with canned spam compliance. Canned spam compliance means that you should check out the CAN-SPAM website, it means that you have to identify yourself, your address, your where you're located. It has to be an easy opt-out for people. You have to honor the opt-out for at least 90 days, and there's a series of things you have to do for CAN-SPAM compliance. Either you should be prepared to do that internally, or you should hire professional assistance in doing that. It is critical. It is a legal requirement that you maintain CAN-SPAM compliance. Beyond that, you want to follow best practices for all your opt-out policies and ensure that you're capturing any manual opt-out or unsubscribe requests immediately, that you have a good system to do that. Let's move on. So when it gets to deliverability, we have some wonderful examples here that we're providing you. Don't think WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. If you're looking at a beautifully rendered, graphical image document, newsletter, email, webinar invitation. Webinar invitations are my favorite because people think they have this huge graphic that they're sending out with the webinar information. When that happens, it's often the third example, the example at the bottom that people see. Just large boxes, sometimes blank boxes with red X's on them, and it forces the people to download it to understand what they're seeing. That's bad in many regards. First of all, they may not trust you to download it. They may think it could be a virus, for example. So they don't want to download it. Or they find it inconvenient to download. Or they have a firewall which prohibits the downloading. There's many ways that that email will not get through. Or it gets caught up in the spam folder because it's this gigantic graphic and it's large. And many people have only text emails, so they're not going to accept it regardless. So we recommend a startup selling best practice. This is a great takeaway today, is if you want to have a larger image, you tee it up with some text that will render adequately, especially on a mobile device, before they get to the large graphic. Very, very important. Also, if you're trying to use advanced functionality or logic, the top left-hand example is what happens when you haven't fully tested that advanced functionality, where you're trying to insert dynamically information. It's called personalization. When you're trying to dynamically enter that into the email, we recommend for many of our clients to keep it simple, personalize perhaps the hi John, the salutation, but don't try to put in benefits 1, 2, 3 because it may not make it into the email. It could get stripped out or it could be a problem. We see that pretty frequently now. That's a bad thing. And the worst example is the big black boxes where the email gets completely confused, nothing at all displays, and that's the email that somebody receives. So we recommend multi-part MIME emails, text emails, and if you want to use a graphic, that there's a small paragraph or a few lines of text before you get to the graphic. Let's continue on. And it's very important, by the way. So on topic selection, I tell people don't think about your prospects. I speak to agency CEOs and producers all the time. Don't think about what your prospects want to learn. Think about what your clients want to learn. Because what should be of value to your clients should definitely be of value to your prospect. So if your clients are concerned with ACA compliance, with IRS regulations, with the series of things that they have to do for their next renewal, especially with all the crazy changes happening today, those are great topics, both for your clients and your prospects. And who should you have? Not a salesperson, not a producer. You should have an expert in ACCA compliance, or perhaps one of your great support, your service and support people who really understand the nuances of what's involved in these new regulations. For property and casualty, again, compliance topics, OSHA topics are always great things, FMCSA, CSA topics for trucking, safety topics for trucking or for manufacturing. Again, things that your clients want to know, your prospects would want to know. So don't focus on selling insurance. That said, you could run a webinar on experienced mod factors and how they're adversely impacting your clients and your prospects. That would be a technical nuance, sort of touching upon selling insurance, yet technically attractive enough that the clients and prospects might find that of value. But you don't want to say, hey, lower your insurance costs, come to this webinar, as opposed to what are the impact of experience mod factors on policies. Let's continue on. Think relevance, think learning, think education when it comes to your webinar topics. And that gets, now correlating with that, what about your speakers? You want, as we said in the prior slide, subject matter experts, people who are authorities. With the webinar samples that we gave you, it was part of the reason they're so successful is people are now acclimated to the fact that they are going to be bringing experts in these areas to talk intelligently about them. At the end of the webinar, you can have your commercial. But people are going to be thinking of you as thought leaders anyway. You are the people bringing great content to them. Who might that be? Attorneys. We have somebody who is actually one of our clients has somebody who is admitted to the Supreme Court. They can actually argue cases in front of the Supreme Court. They're extremely knowledgeable in compliance. A terrific type of speaker. CPAs who can keep you up on regulations, minimum wage laws, changes to reporting requirements. Consultants, including safety consultants, or you may have somebody who's a safety director on staff, for example, if you have a trucking practice. Make sure your speakers are people who will be respected and that they're bringing that content, that valued content, to your clients and your prospects. So while you're creating this awesome retention tool with clients, simultaneously you're creating one of your best prospecting tools as well. You have a client retention and lead generation tool at exactly the same time. And we say this with all due respect, avoid salespeople. Producers are there to sell, and even if they're awesome at talking about these topics, it can often creep in where they're talking about their, value-added differentiators, for example, as opposed to the pure content. So whenever possible, don't use a producer. Let's continue on. So John, perhaps you'd like to talk about slide deck preparation.
So if you go through all the work to find a great speaker and find a great topic and invite people to a web seminar, you want to make sure that you give yourself every chance for success for that web seminar to come off professionally and be of value to the people who attend. So the key to that is preparation. Number one, creating the slide deck. Make sure you have enough slides for the time. Make sure the slides are interesting, concise, easy to read. You can see the slides we use today are quite simplistic, but they make sure that they convey enough information to keep the audience on topic, interested, following what we're saying. Should they look away or blink for a moment, they have images, so they're at least pleasant to look at, if not even impressive. Make sure that the speaker who will be talking at the webinar understands best practices and that they're prepared for this type of venue. We've often had speakers come to us through clients who say, I have done 1,000 seminars, so I should be able to do a webinar, and that would make logical sense, but unfortunately in practice it doesn't. It's much different talking to a headset, to a computer, than it is talking to 1,000 people in a giant hotel ballroom. So practice and make sure you coach the speaker to keep them engaged, keep them on a path, watching a clock to make sure that they don't run way over or rush through the content. And beforehand, do a technology test and dry run. Make sure that speaker sits down at the PC they'll be presenting from, wearing the headset they'll be wearing, and that everything looks good, sounds good, and works smooth. Make sure that they practice some of the slides. Do a mini dry run, even a full dry run for a rookie speaker, so that they're very comfortable on the day of the web seminar with what they'll be talking about, knowing when they'll be talking, when they'll start, when they'll stop, when they'll be handing it back and forth to a moderator, and have a logistical plan. We'll be signing on 15 minutes beforehand to make sure everything is working properly. We'll be showing your presentation 2 minutes before the hour. We'll be starting the webinar 30 seconds past the hour. You'll be done speaking 25 minutes past the hour and passing it back to the moderator for a Q&A, things like that. The day of, do your best to execute as professionally as you can. Be prompt. I once attended a web seminar that claimed to have over 10,000 attendees, so a big, massive number. They didn't start the webinar till 3 minutes after. The person spent 5 minutes exchanging pleasantries with the moderator, so at 8 after, they started on their content, which was 5 minutes of biographical information. So at 12:13, I happened to have about 20 minutes that day, they finally began talking about content. At 12:15, they had only finished teeing up that content, and so I left the web seminar because 15 of my 20 minutes had already gone by and they hadn't shared anything of value. So today you saw we started the web seminar 30 seconds past the hour, and after about 90 seconds of intro and bio information, we began to get into the content because we want to be professional and prompt in all of our web seminars. We also try to be as concise as possible. We only ask you for 20 to 30 minutes of your time, hoping that you'll learn something, and if you want to learn something else, we'll provide you with a call to action so that you can come back to us, and we bring our clients down that same path. So they're giving their clients and prospects important information concisely and professionally, and leaving them with a call to action so that they can come back should they wish to learn more. Which leads us to maybe the final and maybe the most important element of email marketing and web seminars, and that's your follow-up best practices. If you do all this work, don't leave these web seminar attendees, web seminar registrants, or even email click-throughs and opens, don't leave them out to sea. Make sure that you do something to follow up on them. And what we recommend is creating a process that works well for you and is effective for your clients and prospects that begins with an educational offer. The offer in your email is to attend the web seminar. The offer in your web seminar should be some type of consultation, complimentary offer, something that isn't sales related but may uncover an opportunity for you. Send them a follow-up email. Thank you for attending. How can we help from here? The people who attend, the most interested people, if they are in your prospect profile, should receive a phone call from a producer. And somebody should consider contacting the people who maybe are on the periphery of the profile or who registered and didn't attend. Maybe that's not calls to be made by a busy producer who's out servicing clients. Maybe those are secondary level calls that are made by an appointment setter. As I mentioned before, create this process and formalize it so that everybody knows what to do, what they're expected to do after a web seminar, and executes it in a timely manner. If you don't call somebody till 2 weeks after a web seminar, they may not remember, they may have lost interest, the dots will no longer connect. If you call them tomorrow, you have a much greater likelihood of success. So let's review briefly. So your agency can accomplish results like these, the results we started with, by carefully building an email list, sending out timely, compliant, attractive, textual, deliverable email messages. And our favorite call to action in those messages is a web seminar. That's why we're talking about integrated email marketing and web seminars today. Those web seminars should be on educational, valuable topics with hopefully third-party expert consultant type speakers. And you should have a very tight lead handling process or follow-up process for pursuing the people who attend your web seminar. If you do all those things, you can have great results just like these people. So with that, now we're going to take a few questions. Meanwhile, if anybody would like a complimentary marketing or lead gen review, if anybody would like us to review their email marketing or web seminar campaigns currently, or discuss email marketing or web seminar campaigns that they're thinking about, please call or email me. We'd be happy to set that up. It's a complimentary service. This is the educational consultative offer that we talked about in the previous slide. With that, Alan, the first question we have is can you recommend some best practices for handling opt-outs and unsubscribes?
The opt-outs and unsubscribes can come in a wide variety of ways. So some are automatic. At least your eMarketing engine should be able to do this, which is somebody clicks a button and they have a radio button and they unsubscribe and they're automatically unsubscribed from your system. There's nothing you have to do. Also, repeated hard bounces will also be unsubscribed from your system. So those are automatic. However, if somebody hits the reply button and says unsubscribe somewhere in the subject line or in the somewhere within the email, or stop emailing me, or my address changed, I've retired, I'm no longer here, my job has changed, all of those are can require manual intervention, and with every campaign they have to be taken out and removed from the list so that you don't get into any type of spam complaint problem. So those are the manual unsubscribes. Those have to be done, and anybody who unsubscribes, you're supposed to honor for at least 90 days. We often recommend much longer than that, and that has to be done diligently, and all of these things have to be done quickly.
Thanks, Alan. Several people asked about compliance. Can you review a few more tips or best practices for staying compliant and obeying canned spam?
Yes, and some of the things we just mentioned are canned spam centric, which is if somebody asks to be opted out, you must do it. If somebody asks manually, you must respond to that right away. You also have the subject line. There's 6 key elements of it, by the way. The subject line has to match the body of the content of the email. So you can't say the secret of life is included in this email and then the email is about buying insurance, for example. So it has to be, the subject line has to honestly assess what the content, represent what the content is within the email. You have to provide an automated way for people to opt out, or an easy way for people to opt out. You must identify who's sending the email, where it's coming from, and include an address someplace where people can see who is sending the email. So all of that's on the government canned spam website, and it's something that you should either look at and know well, or the people doing this for you should be very proficient with that.
Well, thank you very much, Alan. We'd like to thank all of you for attending today. If anybody would like a copy of the slides, please call or email me at the contact information on the screen. If you'd like to watch a replay of this web seminar, please visit our website. We'll be posting it shortly. You can also visit our YouTube channel. With that, today's web seminar is now ending. We hope you all have a great day.